Good morning, friends. Thank you. Thank you for continuing to care, to like, to comment, to get the word out, and continue to pray for Ukraine, Russia, and Belarus. Believe it or not, we're at day 112, and God is still doing the unthinkable. He's continuing to deliver the weak, protect the vulnerable, get people out of harm's way, even as people are doing their best to create destruction and destroy lives. God is still on the move, and that's why we're praying. That's why we're continuing to care, and I'm so grateful to all of you all continue to join us day after day. So if we're going to continue to care, if we're going to continue to be motivated, if we're going to continue to do that, we've got to have hope. We've got to believe that our prayers matter, but also we've got to believe that God is moving and it makes a difference. And it does. It does. Again and again, the West keeps giving up on Severodonetsk. They continue to hold. They continue to stand. Yes, Russia is bombing as much as they can this morning. Just to give you a picture, this is the latest operational map of Donbass. You see all those red spots? That's all shelling in the last 24 hours. They are shelling non-stop, and yet the Ukrainians still stand. They continue to hold the ground in the Azot chemical plant. They continue, but not only stand, but over in Kherson, they are pushing back. There has been real success on the ground. They are within 18 kilometers of the city of Kherson. They are threatening hard, and this is very important because Russia, it has extremely limited resources right now. They're running down, we've talked about this over and over again, using T-62 tanks, using KH-22 missiles. They're running out of supplies, they're running out of material, and therefore they want to focus everything that they have over in Severodonetsk to get some sort of a victory. And when they're not able to do that, when they're getting this real pressure on the western flank. So praise God for those breakthroughs that are happening. In the middle of it, pray in the middle of all the bombing that all these shells, because again, remember, Russians do not have any real artillery skills. There is literally just, it's a plain battleship. Technically, they don't have any accuracy more than about a half a kilometer, but in reality, they don't have any intel, they don't have any means, and their teams are so poorly skilled. Pray that every single missile bomb comes to no good, that it literally just falls in the middle of nowhere. And please continue to pray for bloodless resolution, that for bombs not to go off, for shells not to fire. Whew, man, pray for that. In all of that, the Russians have not actually done any meaningful attacks. Yes, they are attempting to do what's called urban cleansing in Severodonetsk, but mostly they're firing shells. And the one place they attempted down in southeastern Donbass and in the Shevchenko village, and there they were pushed back. Again, the Russians cannot compete with the Ukrainians in actual war, so they're just throwing because they have had unlimited shells up to this point, unlimited. Pray that those shells don't get there. Pray that they're not able to fire. So what we said throughout this, from the beginning, Putin's goal has always been to use lies and subterfuge and confusion. It's worked really well since 2014, but we pray for the truth, and continually, again and again, the truth keeps coming out. One of the things Putin actually pointed out. There was an interview with Russia's former Prime Minister Mikhail Kasnyavnov, who was actually he was the Prime Minister under Putin since 2004 until he was replaced, and then he became part of the opposition. And he basically said no. He said when he watched that Security Council meeting back on February 21st, he said, "I knew there would be war." And he said, "Listen," he said, "I just know these people, and by looking at them, I saw that Putin is already out of it, not in a medical sense, but in political terms." He's completely out of it. And that, he's pointed out that the countries that Russia could target next, if he wins in its war against Ukraine, is most likely going to be the Baltics. And that's been clear as well. It's so good to hear voices saying, again, Putin will never be satisfied with just anything. He wasn't satisfied with Crimea. He wasn't satisfied with Abkhazia. He wasn't satisfied with Donbass. He's got to have it all. And by it all means all of Europe in reality. Guys, we cannot continue to pray that this understanding that you cannot, just in the same way as Hitler was never satisfied with Sudetenland, in the same way, Putin will never be satisfied. And so you cannot negotiate with a man who will never be satisfied. Another thing is Russian millionaires are leaving the country in droves. They are fleeing. 3 times as many Russian millionaires are expected to leave this year than in 2019, the year before the pandemic. Good grief. Man, they're predicted to suffer a loss of about 15,000 high net worth individuals, with those with more than $1 million in assets. So Russians are fleeing. The Russians are fleeing. One of the things is Russian oil. Again, we're discovering is that in the first 100 days of the invasion, Russia's revenue from exports was 93 billion euros or $97 billion. These are money that people paid to keep the war going. Well, guess what? Guess who the biggest one was? Importer was China, but guess who was right behind it? Germany. Germany was with $12.6 billion in imports. Guys, this is not okay. There has to be this understanding that to buy oil and gas from Russia is to buy missiles to hit children and women and families and schools and to fund terror. China, again, China has tried to stay in this middle zone where they are supporting, they kind of vacillate back and forth. Well, they're back to sort of supporting. China, the President Xi Jinping actually had a phone call with Vladimir Putin this morning, and he signaled that the invasion has not in any way dented his commitment to their partnership. And so continue to pray for pressure just to push hard on China to back away. They're trying to stay in this middle zone. Help them to understand that this is that. But you know what we said? Anybody who backs Russia, our prayer is that those governments go down. That every single one of those governments is a government of oppression. China, India, Saudi Arabia, Iran, UAE. All of these are governments that oppress people, have horrible human rights records, and are absolutely hostile to the gospel. In Russian industry, oh my goodness. So one of the things that Putin has said, you don't want to play with us? Then we'll just turn Russia back into the Soviet Union, a closed economy. Well, the head of Rostec, which is one of the main Russian industry, government agencies, he said, the restrictions imposed against Russia are unprecedented, but they are not a signal for total import substitution. In other words, that closed economy where we can make everything ourselves. The reality is right now, Russia can't. And he said, because replacing everything is pointless, economically inexpedient, and simply impossible. He is basically defying Putin with reality. That is so helpful. Again, we've talked about this, these divided loyalties, the snake turning on itself. Putin's caught in the middle in an indefensible spot. And so another kind of follow-up to that is they did a study of the Russian construction industry, 26 different materials necessary for building buildings, and they found that half of all the types of building materials in Russia depend on imported equipment by 70% or more, in some cases 90% or more. So in other words, the key elements of building they can't actually build. They can't build now. Every industry right now is crippled in Russia. And that's just the beginning. That is the beginning. And Putin says, it's okay, we can do this. We'll build a command economy like we had under the communism. It's not going to work. It can't work. That's good news. And it's good news that the Russians understand this. The bureaucrats understand it. Because I mentioned this, the bureaucrats are part of a group of people that are recognizing we can't go forward. There is no future as an isolated country. There is no future. And all of our stuff that we stole as bureaucrats or oligarchs, we are losing already if we do not get out of this place. So pray that that pressure continues to increase again as we're headed towards default on June 27th. Oh man, one of the things they're seeing is Russia is running out of drones. They're running out of drones in every facet. They're using any kind of commercial or personal drones that they can get their hands on. And this is awesome because with those drones going away, this war has become a war of drones. And if Russia doesn't have drones, what do they have? Medvedev, I've talked about this, turning on each other. Medvedev is trying to cozy up with all the hardliners, and he posted on his Telegram, he said, who says that Ukraine will even be on anybody's map 2 years from now? In other words, Ukraine will be wiped out. He's trying to position himself as a voice for the hardliners, and that's just wild. In another place where we're seeing turned out, the Russian central bank has actually denied something Putin has said. Putin has said we're going to start charging people to have foreign currency accounts in Russia. Well, and then those foreign currency accounts, they will not be able to withdraw the foreign currency money because there's no foreign currency to get it. So as a result, all that foreign currency will just disappear through fees over time. And so basically it's a way for Russia to get hard currency without actually having to pay for it. Well, the central bank has said, absolutely, that is not okay. That is not acceptable. Who says to Putin that it's not acceptable? This is really powerful. When the bureaucrats begin to counter Putin, when in the same way that the hardliners are countering Putin, everybody's beginning to turn on Putin to varying degrees. Another thing that's happened is it's becoming clear of how scared Russia is. They passed a new law strengthening the putting up to 20 years for being seen as opposing Russia's war. Guys, they are afraid. This is a good sign. It's a horrible law, but it's a good sign of showing the reality. It's very hard to get a pulse on how the real people are standing against Russia, but it's happening. It really is happening. Russia just started their St. Petersburg Economic Forum they have every year. The West has boycotted. Well, guess who came? The Taliban came. Guess who? North Korea came. I mean, it was like something out of a movie where Dr. Evil gathers his henchmen. I mean, it was ridiculous. But on there, they're showing maps of how they are actually going to incorporate all the territories they've already taken. Again, I've said this from day one. Any territory Russia occupies, there will be atrocities. That is not acceptable. Again, making those plans obvious allows them to be countered. And finally, Russian recruitment. They are running so low that they are removing any restrictions. So they're recruiting, aka conscripting, people who are up to 49 years of age. They don't have to actually be fit. They don't actually have to pass any intelligence. They don't actually have to have any training to be put in the most complicated, the tanks and motorized brigades. They can't get people to get into tanks because those tanks are being targeted by javelins. They are scraping the bottom of the barrel. But then they also said, hey, don't want you guys to feel left out. Normally, you can't get into the army if you've got a record. But hey, if you got a record, Wagner Group will take you. We'll take everybody. Whew. Guys, wow, I've mentioned this before, they are so close to the bottom of the barrel, and this has to become something that the rest of the world is aware of and understanding. Somehow this absolute running out of resource is not at the top of the news cycle. Somehow they're still making Russia to be out this massive, strong force. And when you declare it, when you treat Russia like they are an unstoppable force, which people are like, it's an unstoppable force, then guess what? You don't support support Ukraine, you don't send them the supplies they need, and then it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. So pray, because one of the things that Ukraine, the Deputy Minister of Defense, Anna Maliar, said this. She said, no matter how much effort Ukraine makes, no matter how professional our army is, without the help of our Western partners, we will not be able to win this war. From what Ukraine said, from what we need, we got 10% of what we asked for. 10%. Ukraine needs, and we mentioned this, Zelensky's shopping list, 1,000 155 millimeter howitzers, 300 MLRS, those are multiple rocket launchers, 500 tanks, 2,000 armored vehicles, and 1,000 drones. We've got to have this. We've got to have this. The final piece of support on that is that the Parliament's EU's Parliament's President Roberta Metsola welcomed the Ukraine Defense Minister Reznikov today and said, "Our support for Ukraine will not fade. We cannot allow war fatigue to set in. We will continue to provide military, financial, and humanitarian aid and to support Ukraine's EU candidates." We've talked about this. The people of Europe want Ukraine to be part of Europe. The members of parliament want them to be. The people of Germany, the people of France, they want them to be part of Europe, but they also want to support Ukraine with heavy weapons. It is a few key people in the halls of power that don't want it. It is Olaf Scholz, Chancellor of Germany. It is President Macron of France, and it is Prime Minister Mario Draghi of Italy, who they seem to have a vested interest in this not happening. Whether it's they have financial interests in Russia or that Putin holds some sort of compromising stuff on them, I don't know, and I don't care. But what I want to say is this is our key point. Today, they are supposed to be in Kyiv meeting with Zelensky, and the reality is, one side is they are coming in order to pressure him to a ceasefire, to cow to Putin's demands. But we're praying that Zelensky turns the tables and that it turns out they end up promising and delivering for once the needed weapons, the rest of that 90% of that wish list, of that shopping list. Pray, pray, pray. This is the key prayer point today. Pray, pray, pray for that. That's so key. Please be praying for that. We had a great question and answer time yesterday. Many of you guys were asking questions about that. I'll get to a couple of those that you guys wrote on later, but continue to pray for Severodonetsk. Pray for those guys to be protected. Pray for the Ukrainians to continue to be able to supply them. And then switch over to continue to pray for that Western Front, for them to be able to destabilize that on Kherson, and pray for the Zaporozhye Front to stand strong today as well. Whew. All right. Well, some of you all were asking, what about the, yesterday we're asking about the 200,000 children who have been stolen, essentially deported to Russia, along with the 1.5 million adults. What about them? Well, the good news is there's bad news. One, Putin about a week or so ago passed a law that allowed them to fast track naturalizing these kids. In other words, giving them Russian passports if they didn't have a guardian present, which many of them were they were all taken against their will. So in that case, they're instantly orphans, whether they are or not. The good news is Russia is notorious for keeping records. Massive. So if we, again, what are we praying for is as all the different parties are fighting, that a Daniel will slip through, a person of righteousness come in and bring order and justice and truth to Russia. That if that happens, then we're going to be able to find those kids. Pray for their protection, pray for their safety, pray for them, but also for all the people that have been deported. And also the question, what about the POWs? I will say this. I know that they have given a death sentence to the 2 British and the Moroccan fighters. But also, again, they've deported over 1,000 of the Azovstal fighters to Russia. Again, will they be they are being interrogated, but will they be tortured? Almost certainly. Pray for them. But I do not believe that they will actually be executed unless it's, again, Putin loses complete control, because their deaths are worth nothing. They are, though, worth very much as bargaining chips in an end game negotiation. So they're held. I believe will they interrogate and torture them and try to turn some of them to make some propaganda things as they renounce Ukraine or whatever? Yes. But will they be killed? I don't. I mean, again, anything's possible, but I don't believe so. Another question was, what about Sweden and Finland's access to NATO? Where's that at? Well, Turkey, they keep negotiating, but Turkey doesn't want to give up they have a trump card and a veto, and they're trying to get everything they can from it. I don't know if they will agree, because they're doing a lot of backdoor deals with Russia. So their big deal is they want Sweden and Finland have put arms embargoes and sanctions on Turkey for what they have been doing to the Kurdish people in southeast Turkey and Syria. And so Turkey, in turn, says that Sweden and Finland are actually harboring terrorists. And in fact, one of the ministers in Sweden's government is a Kurd. And so, in fact, they being part of that, they said there's a requirement. So Sweden can only walk back so far from the things they've done towards Turkey as far as the Kurdish people, and they're attempting to walk back them. Even so, they're trying to give things away, but Turkey has fundamentally said, no, they're still backing terrorists. So I'm honestly I'm very doubtful that Sweden is going to be able to meet Turkey's demands, or even if Turkey wants Sweden to meet their demands. So we're still stuck there. Oh man, again, please be praying for the protection of the innocent. As I said today, the shelling today is insane throughout all of Donbass. Pray for the people live there. People are living there right now. I know many have evacuated, but the reality is many don't. Maybe it's the elderly who said, I live here, I die here. It's the poor who said, I have nowhere to go. It's people with no options. They're still there. And so again, praise God for our friends Vladimir and Lilia and the church Blaga Vest, or Good News in Dnipro, as they are going to the front lines. They are ministering to these people. They're bringing them food. They're bringing them water. They're helping to organize churches in those areas. They're ministering to them the gospel. They're ministering to the troops. They're bringing life into those areas, and you guys are helping make it possible. We were hoping to do an interview again with them this week, as that so many things are still changing there. It doesn't look like we'll be able to. We'll probably do it early part of next week. Be on the lookout for that. But also, thank you for your gifts. We're going to be able to send over, I believe, $4,700 some dollars today because of your gifts. So thank you. Please keep the gifts coming. It's so necessary. It's so necessary. I'm so grateful. So many of you have given multiple times. Thank you. It is making a difference. It's saving lives. You are making a difference. And so if please consider being part of that. If you want more information about what's happening, what they're doing, how to get involved, go to ariselife.org/helpukraine. If you want these in print form, again, I don't ever get but a small portion of them. Go to ariselife.org/Ukraine. But also, you'll notice on the description here, it says, the description says it's maybe hyperlinked Ukraine, a prayer update. As of Saturday, we are moving all of these updates over to our new page, because this is our church page. We need room for the church, what the church does. Please consider clicking on there, going over to it, following it. Again, we did our question and answer there. We're going to do more and more stuff there. You want to follow that and to be a part of that, please share that. Every time you share, every time you comment, it makes a difference. But there's obviously going to be some disjointedness when we move over there full time on Saturday. So please jump over there. Wow. And just thank you. Thank you for continuing to care. Lord, bless each person right now to know that they matter. Lord, bless them with their finances, bless them with their health and their relationships. Wherever they're stuck, allow them to know you care, you see them, and you are setting them free. We love you, Lord. In your name, Amen. Hey guys, if you need prayer for anything, say need prayer. I've just been loving watching how you jump on and pray for each other, and our team would love to pray for you as well. Also though, as always, we've got men's groups and women's groups that meet on Zoom. If you want to be a part of one of those, just say men's group or women's groups, and Gary Phillips for the men and Mariana Sikovskaya or Jill Hawes for the women. They'll reach out to you with the details. And as always, we love you all. We're so grateful to you all. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Have an amazing day. Take care.